Is she crazy? Her pappy just died. That girl can put on a bonnet and a pair of slippers and go around there to the Michael Jackson studio, knock on that door and whoop her ass.
Hello, Black Hole. See this brother winning, man. Hey, hey, dude, what is your win, big? What is your win, big? What is your win, big?
Well, hello there, love bugs. Hello there, bellas. If you have not already done so, please remember to like, share to Facebook, subscribe, and visit uptopbeauty.com. And if you are not already a part of our book club, please hit the Patreon link below and or the join button here on the YouTube. And for a small monthly fee of $5, you babies, yes you, can be privy to all the shenanigans before the YouTube gets it, if the YouTube gets it. Now, let's continue talking about Tony Turner's Deliver Us from Temptation, the tragic and shocking story of the Temptations and Motown. Tony, I need your help. It was Nadra. What happened? I asked her. We can't raise enough money for Daddy's funeral. We're going to have to hold a press conference tonight and let the public know that we need money to bury him. Nadra, honey, I almost screamed. It cannot be done. You simply cannot let it out. I triggered back to that old Motown thing you must never tell. Keep it in the family. It's just too embarrassing to your father's memory, I told her. We have to find some other way. What about Eddie and Dennis? Wait, pause. Don't get me wrong, y'all. Don't get me wrong. I know that they are like brothers and they done came up through the trenches together. I'm sure that Dennis and David then, had a good time together. Blink if you know what I'm saying. But it would be hard for me to want to donate any money to David's funeral when he just stole money from me. But not really, because we don't really know whether he stole the money or the money was stolen from him out of his briefcase. What about Eddie and Dennis? What about Melvin and Otis? Surely they might help in some way. Don't nobody have any money, Tony. They don't have any money that they want to give to David Ruffin. Did you ask Berry Gordy? He got money, and I can bet he would send some right away. If nothing else, it would be bad for his public image to have David buried without a decent funeral. She hadn't asked him. I told her, Nadra, let's make a list of possibilities and put Gordy at the top. You've been doing well so far, girl. You've been holding yourself together. The autopsy's over and he's still on ice in Philadelphia. We're getting desperate. Honey, you have to be strong. You've got business to take care of. Somebody has to come through. We cannot go out there with a tin cup. Baby, do you know what this reminds me of? The GoFundMe bullshit. Give me 2 minutes to speak on this, because I believe if somebody don't tell you, then I'm going to tell you. The fact that you have people that are creating GoFundMes to have these extravagant funerals is astonishing to me. When you don't have money to bury your loved one, or your loved one hadn't financially prepared for their death, which is absolutely ridiculous to me, crazy to me, that somebody somewhere ain't got $2,000 saved up, maybe $3,000, and I know you like, Nay, to bury somebody is $11,000. Bullshit, the Baker man. You cremate them, you put them in a box, and then if you don't have nowhere to put them, or a site to put them at, let the motherfucker sit right there, okay, on the shelf. Smartest financial woman I know told me, Nay, don't you ever put money in the ground. And you got people out here that have extravagant funerals off of GoFundMe money. Man, if you don't get to out my face with that, honey, you have to be strong. You've got business to take care of. Somebody has to come through. We cannot go out there with a tin cup. That's all the media wants now. Call Martha Reeves. I told her. She knows people at the Rhythm and Blues Foundation, and I heard they gave Mary Wells something like $125,000 to help her with her medical bills and get her set up in an apartment. Try any Motown insider. Try the Four Tops, maybe Stevie Wonder. What about Aretha Franklin? Call her church. If some of these people give, you can have a nice, elegant, dignified funeral. Call them and see what happens. But don't hold any press conference until we speak again. Call me. Thankfully, hours later, I had another call from Nadra. Baby, our worries are over. She sounded relieved, almost relaxed. A casket company in Atlanta, the same company that had made the Reverend Martin Luther King's casket, had offered to donate a very expensive one for David. Well, honey, I said, thank God it's something decent because we can't have David laid out in any old thing. Baby, she replied, they told me it's going to be custom made. I'm thinking of having it done on the outside in patent leather. See, that's the bullshit I'm talking about. People, well, I'm telling you, I can tell when motherfuckers ain't never had money because when they get it, they act a nigga. Nadra, I love you, girl. I know you just passed from COVID. I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at the ignorance that people have when it comes down to putting people in the ground. Look at this. This is from me washing my wife's clothes in bleach. This is ridiculous. But what I'm saying is when you don't have no money, you don't put money in the ground. That's what I'm saying. And I said, wait a minute, honey. Ain't that a little different? I knew David was a fool for patent leather shoes. He must have had hundreds of pairs in his lifetime. Can they make a patent leather casket? Oh, yeah, honey. The man said they could cover it right over the steel in black. Okay, well, if the niggas want to be got, then go ahead and get them. Don't you think that might look very gauche? I don't know, she said. I might have a big pair of eyeglasses hooked up on the top of the casket. Don't you think that's a good idea? Ain't nobody ever seen a casket like that, girl. Don't put the nigga on top of the casket. The nigga belongs in the casket. I don't know, she said. I might have a big pair of eyeglasses hooked up on top of the casket. Don't you think that's a good idea? Ain't nobody ever seen a casket like that. No, they haven't, I told her. I don't know if you would need the glasses, though. What about if I just put his name on it? That's a must. Well, anyway, I got better news than that. Baby, Michael Jackson's paying for the whole funeral. So you know she gonna act a real ninja. When it's your money, oh yeah, give me the worst. Have you ever been out with your friends and you like, girl, I'm gonna treat you to dinner. And every time you treat that bitch to dinner, she always get the Admiral's Feast. Every single time, the Admiral's Feast, you like, bitch, I just got the popcorn shrimp. She explained that her sister Lynette had been put on phone duty, and one of the first performers she had called was Bobby Taylor, the singer who had supposedly been the one who had really discovered the Jackson 5 and brought them to Motown. All I can give you is $500, Bobby told Lynette. But call Michael Jackson and tell him your situation. I'll bet he'll be able to kick in some money. I know Michael always loved David Ruffin. He looked up to him like an idol when he was a kid. He used to copy some of David's early steps. According to Nadra, when Lynette called Michael Jackson's office, the person on the receiving end was very nasty and very irate. Who gave you this number? Who gave you this number? Who told you to call me? Lynette very nervously explained the situation and asked that the message be given to Michael Jackson. Okay, I'll pass on the message. The person barked and slammed down the phone. Girl, is she crazy? Do you know it's crazy people out here on earth? Her pappy just died. That girl can put on a bonnet and a pair of slippers and go around there to the Michael Jackson studios and knock on that door and whoop her ass. Is she crazy? So Nadra told me they scratched Michael Jackson off the list. Shortly thereafter, the phone rang. It was Michael Jackson. He told her not to worry about a thing and not to take a penny from anybody because he was taking care of all the cost. And he wanted everything to be top notch, okay? If the Michael Jackson want to get it, then go ahead and get him. He did not want to see David Ruffin be put away in just any kind of fashion. He was very upset about David's death. He also said that regretfully he would not be able to attend the funeral himself because he felt that his presence would turn it into even more of a total media circus. Okay, Michael Jackson, girl. Finally, on Wednesday, June 5th, 4 days after his death, David's body was ready to be shipped to the Swanson's funeral home in Detroit, where his custom-made casket now awaited him. Diane was to accompany his body with all his belongings, traveling by plane from Philadelphia. David's son, David Ruffin Jr., and his brother Jimmy were waiting in Detroit. You know Diane, the one who he had the propensity to steal her Lincoln Continental and sell it around there to the dope boys for $20. David had returned to Motor City that had once been and always would be home to the forgotten city that would never forget. Detroit still claimed David as its own, but David's adoptive family, Motown, had gone in search of warmer, whiter, wealthier pastures and had long ago abandoned to doom both the city and the adopted son. I packed my bags and prepared to leave for Detroit. As soon as it was reported that David Ruffin's body would go on public view on Thursday, the line of fans began to form outside Swanson's. He had died Saturday, June 1st, 1991. He was finally coming home to Detroit on Wednesday, June 5th. By now, there had been 5 full days of nonstop media hype, and continued rumors of his murder were fanning the gossip on the street. The whole situation was growing steadily out of control. The private family viewing was set for Friday. I finally decided to leave on the first flight Saturday morning. I had changed my flight plans so many times already. I just didn't want to go. I didn't want to be faced with the reality of it. But finally, after a nerve-rattling aborted takeoff, we got underway, and I arrived in Detroit and was met at the airport by Pat, who took me directly to the funeral home. I could not believe the crowd that I saw as we approached Swanson. I'd heard that the viewing line was very long, but I never expected anything like it, and evidently neither did Swanson's. Diane had told me that when she had gone there on Wednesday with Martha Reeves and had told one of the funeral home ladies who she was, the lady had spoken to her very nasty and mean, at which Martha had snatched off her sunglasses and said, "I am Martha Reeves." "Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Reeves. I didn't know it was you." And they don't want it with that Martha Reeves, okay? That's the last thing you want, is to get the crazy from the Martha Reeves. "I don't care who you thought it was," said Martha. "Get Mr. Swanson up here right now. You're not supposed to speak to anybody like that. This young lady here is David Ruffin's fiance. This woman has waited on David Ruffin hand and foot since Detroit arrested him and threw him out. And you should never talk to anybody or treat any of David Ruffin's fans like that." Ooh, okay, Bob. "We Motown people have manners and always treat people well. You really should be ashamed of yourself standing in a funeral home and speaking to human beings in that manner." Diana Ross had sent a very small white bird of paradise arrangement, a somewhat chintzy affair that I was certain one of her staff people must have selected. Rod Stewart's display was huge and really quite hideous, as if his hairdresser might have created it. There was a sort of tropical-looking Halloween type of thing from Hall & Oates positioned near the casket. Pat said it must have cost a fortune, but I felt it was so awful. TT, you and your shade. Pat said it must have cost a fortune, but I felt it was so awful. I didn't want to look at it. Another wreath was in the form of a huge gold record trimmed with flowers. I was surprised to see Berry Gordy's flowers prominently placed right next to David's head. Now that's class. All the while I was taking in the flowers, I kept sneaking glances at David, but my eyes were beginning to tear, and I couldn't make out his features clearly. All I could see were his trademark glasses. Eddie decided to go straight to the funeral home, and he told me he wanted to go alone. After they settled in, Tony, tell everybody to come to my suite, he said. There's dinner and soft drinks for everyone, but please save something for me. And Tony, don't let anyone do too much beer drinking. Keep everything cool and quiet, and don't let no one into my bedroom. I sensed that he wanted the group to stay close together tonight like family. As soon as we'd gather in Eddie's presidential suite, everyone started talking about David. Our unspoken rule was, don't talk about the circumstances of death in front of Eddie. Although Eddie showed a little emotion to us, we felt as if we knew what his real feelings were, and we also knew how he tended to deal with his feelings. While we all hoped that sharing our memories of David with one another would help us bring him back to life long enough so that we could come to terms with his death, we didn't expect Eddie to join us. And we certainly didn't think Eddie would want to hear the one thing that everyone was saying over and over, that David Ruffin did not overdose himself. I think it was the people in the crack house. They knew he had all that money, and they had probably given David dope on credit, and David probably didn't want to pay them. Somebody cooked up a rock he couldn't refuse. Maybe nobody was really trying to kill David, said Nate. Maybe they were just trying to get him in a state where they could take the money without him resisting, and they went too far. And then, when he collapsed, they panicked. Reports had emerged of autopsy photographs showing abrasions on David's chest and knees, as if he had been dragged. Nobody was quite sure what that might mean, but everybody agreed that if someone wanted to kill David Ruffin, the obvious method would be by drug overdose. Nobody would question it. When we got there around 9 a.m., the line was still very long. The Swanson's funeral home attendant was late in arriving, and when she did show up, she was in a panic because David had to be at the church by 10 o'clock, and the line was still growing. I'm not letting them people on the line in, she told me. There is no public viewing today. Not already done so, please remember to like, share to Facebook, subscribe, and visit uptopbeauty.com. Now remember this, the same people that you meet on the way up will always be the same people that you meet on the way down. Naysayers, patron loves you babies. Have a good one.